She was clearly a beautiful and extraordinary noble lady, yet she was doing the dirtiest work with the lowest pay. Countless customers paid a high price, drawn by her reputation, just to have a chance to meet her for one night. But the man tonight who got this opportunity was very special. He didn't climb into Angel's bed. Instead, he carefully stated he would do nothing. He said he paid just to ask her to marry him. Angel felt disdain. This week alone, 5 men had proposed to her. She had long been immune to these sentimental declarations, because they all just wanted her body for free. None of them truly loved the person she was now. Impatient, she sent the man away. What surprised Angel was, the man came back to her room again. This time, he paid double. And again, only wanted to talk, doing nothing else. Let me take you away from here, I'm serious, marry me. The man's sincere and passionate gaze ignited every beat of Angel's worn-out heart. But she still refused him. I don't feel anything for you. Absolutely nothing. You're just a local farmer. Hearing this response, the man, deeply hurt, could only leave. Watching his figure fade into the distance, Angel felt a bit shaken inside. She had thought of a life of marriage and children, but she knew she was too tainted, unworthy of someone as pure as Michael. Because Michael was a farmer in the area, and also a devout believer. A man like him deserved a clean and pure wife. But he fell in love with Angel at first sight. Even knowing about her unsavory occupation, he didn't care. Every time he saved enough money, he came to propose. Although Angel always rejected him outwardly, behind the scenes, she asked the madam how much it would cost to leave. The madam realized she wanted to leave, but there was no precedent for redeeming one's freedom here. To keep her obedient, the madam ordered her men to teach her a lesson. That night, Angel was tortured to the brink of death. That same night, Michael tossed and turned in bed. At dawn, he hurried to the tavern. Seeing Angel lying on the bed, covered in wounds, Michael decided not to hesitate any longer. I want to take her away. Unless you pay off her debt, she's not going anywhere. Fine, is this enough? Before leaving, Michael once again held Angel's hand tightly and asked her, I know this may not be the right time, but would you marry me? Of course. Perhaps. The vows made on earth were delayed on their way to heaven. But Michael still managed to bring Angel back to his farm. As he had wished, he gave her his mother's ring, and promised she could leave anytime she wanted. I won't let you endure the suffering you faced before. But no matter how much care Michael gave her, Angel still wasn't willing to spend the rest of her life on the farm with him. She was convinced he had ulterior motives for marrying her. One day, while he was out, she left the ring behind and ran away. When Michael returned and found her gone, he chased after her. Luckily, Angel was walking, and she hadn't gone far when Michael caught up with her. But she suddenly quickened her pace, thinking Michael was coming to take her back. This was the moment that changed her perspective on him. He had come only to give her a bag of water and clothes. It'll be cold tonight. That road to the town is still 19 miles away. This road, heading home, leads downhill just a mile to warmth and food, and to your husband. With that, Michael rode off, leaving her behind. She stood there, unsure of what to do. Now, she had 2 roads. One leading to the hell she once knew, and the other to the warmth of the farm. But she couldn't bring herself to choose, because her past was filled with things no one could imagine. This was why she couldn't easily trust Michael. As a child, she lived in a luxurious estate, but it was just her and her mother. It wasn't until she was 8 years old that she learned she was the illegitimate child of a nobleman. She was an illegitimate child secretly born by her mother. That nobleman father not only refused to accept her, but also drove both mother and daughter out of the estate. They lost their source of income. In those times, a woman who wanted to earn money had only one way to do so. But misfortunes never come singly, and her mother soon fell gravely ill and passed away, leaving her to wander the world alone. But a cruel fate didn't spare her just because she was pitiful. She was sold to a particularly perverse man. He used the pretext of adoption to raise her, then sent her to a tavern to profit off her. At 17, Angel was sent to the tavern for auction. There, she encountered the man who had abandoned her and her mother. You look so much like someone I used to know. It was clear he didn't recognize her. Angel, of course, wasn't going to miss this chance for revenge. That night, she took the man to her room. Afterwards, he learned the truth. Ashamed, he took a gun and ended his life. That same night, she fled the clutches of evil. She boarded a ship heading for California, and met another girl fleeing her troubles on board. That girl suggested they go into business together once in California. At the time, Angel was still naive. She didn't hide anything and revealed her savings. Little did she know, this cruel world had one last lesson for her. She was not only robbed of her hard-earned savings, but also sold to another filthy brothel. The cost of growing up seemed unbearably high. It turned her into a person without a soul. Until Michael appeared. Her shattered life finally began to show signs of hope. Angel stood in the middle of the road, thinking for a long time. Finally, she decided to courageously run back to Michael's arms. Seeing Angel return, Michael said nothing. He quietly served her the dinner he had prepared. Then he poured a basin of hot water, and personally helped her relieve her fatigue. Seeing her damaged feet from walking, Michael silently massaged them for her. This act deeply moved Angel's soul. Why are you doing this? This 1 mile is harder than the other 19 miles. In the days that followed, they lived a simple, ordinary life on the farm. Michael taught her how to raise chickens, and took her to weed the vegetable garden. Occasionally, they would go fishing by the lake. But when the fish bit the bait and got away, Angel would get angry, and storm off in frustration. Her demeanor softened, as his love gently restored the childlike side of her personality. Their feelings gradually overcame obstacles, shining brightly like fireworks in the night. But at night, when Angel asked him to sleep with her, he refused. He was waiting for her to truly love him. In truth, Angel had fallen in love with Michael and the land. But her past continued to haunt her mind, unable to fade. Every night, she would wake up startled from nightmares. To help her overcome the shadows in her heart, Michael took her to the top of a mountain. As the sun slowly rose over the mountain range, Michael lovingly said to Angel, "This is the life I want to give you, Angel. Full of colors and warmth, beautiful and radiant." Hearing this, Angel remained silent. The scars of her past made her instinctively close off her heart. She believed that in this world, no place would accept her past. But Michael was different. He was willing to accept everything, to forgive her for her fall from grace. Your past wasn't your choice, but you can choose the life you want from now on. With just a few words, Michael helped her overcome the pain of her past. In that warm dawn, finally, their passionate love led them to their first intimate union. But a man appeared and shattered this peace. He was Michael's brother-in-law, Paul, who had once been one of Angel's clients. At a glance, he recognized her, although he didn't expose her in front of everyone. When repairing the cabin, Paul confronted Michael. He couldn't accept the idea of his brother marrying someone like her. "Don't let your mother know you married such a disgrace. I love her, and I love everything about her." This was the first time Michael raised his hand to hit someone. Even if he was mocked, he still did everything to protect Angel. But Paul sought Angel out and humiliated her. "Michael is the best man I've ever known. He deserves a good woman, not someone like you." On the outside, Angel showed no reaction. But inside, she was crushed. Even though she tried to ignore such nonsense, she couldn't let Michael become a laughingstock for others. After a night of inner turmoil, she finally left Michael's engagement ring behind, and walked away from the farm. Angel carried her wounds with her, only to discover that the place she once knew had become ruins. A former servant told her, the mistress left with everyone else. He offered her a chance to return to her old trade. Lacking survival skills, she had no choice but to return to selling her body. When Michael heard about this, he stormed into the tavern alone. "Come with me." Once again, Angel sat silently in the wagon. Michael's silence was the greatest display of his anger toward her. Late that night, he sat alone, quietly crying in the stable. Angel happened to witness this scene. She felt both regret and guilt. She had lived her life in a world of equal exchange. But tonight, she finally felt the pull of true love. Determined, she tried to cleanse herself, to wash away the filth of her past. "Stop it, Michael, I'm not clean." Michael gently comforted her. He knew that for her to let go of her past, he first had to understand the world within her. For the first time, they shared everything under a tree, dreaming together of their future, as if everything was moving in a good direction. But fate was not on their side. They encountered a refugee family on their way home. Among them was a pregnant woman about to give birth. Michael offered them shelter at his home. Not long after, the baby was born. To thank Michael, the family gave the baby his surname. He happily agreed. He had expressed his desire for children many times to Angel, but she always remained silent, because she once became pregnant by a cruel man, who not only forced her to have an abortion, but also left her unable to bear children forever. Seeing how much Michael loved children, and knowing she could never give him what he wanted, after careful thought, she decided to tell Michael the truth. "Do you want to have children?" "Of course, I can't have children." Michael didn't blame her at all. Instead, he comforted her. "I love you, nothing can change that." But Angel, a woman broken by life, was deeply insecure and sensitive. Seeing the young and beautiful girl nearby, she thought maybe that girl was more deserving of Michael. So the next day, she filled the house with fresh flowers, prepared a sumptuous lunch, and took him to the top of the mountain. For the first time, they watched the sunrise together. She said many strange things, then left him a letter in her ring, choosing to leave once again. If her previous departures were due to feeling out of place, this time it was because she wanted to give the man she loved a complete family. This time, Michael didn't go after her. He understood that his efforts alone weren't enough. She needed to step out into the world on her own. And most importantly, she had to overcome the wounds of her past. Only then could Angel truly be reborn. After that, Angel wandered to San Francisco. She didn't return to her old trade, instead becoming a cook at a restaurant. Michael's love had taught her to grow. But fate still wasn't done with her. Duke accidentally discovered Angel's whereabouts. When Duke stood before her again, she couldn't control herself and began to tremble. She was once again imprisoned in a hellish cell. Back at the farm, Michael seemed to sense Angel's plight. Lately, he had been restless, unable to sleep or eat, hating himself for letting her leave. As for Angel, when she arrived at Duke's house, she saw two little girls on the bed. The sight brought back memories of her own childhood. So she pretended to obey Duke, and went to the auction stage. She suppressed her fear of Duke, and reclaimed the faith she had abandoned as a child. She trembled, but resolutely exposed his crimes. There are two little girls locked in the room upstairs. He abused us until we were forced to do anything to survive. The love of her mother and Michael gave her strength until the end. Duke, enraged, dragged her into a room, intending to kill her, but someone intervened to save her. She quickly freed the two little girls. When people discovered the children upstairs, they hanged Duke in the palace on the spot. 3 years later, Paul ran into Angel on the road. He followed her to a girls' school. This time, he didn't say anything to hurt her. After talking for a while, he learned that she had brought the two girls there years ago, and now worked as a cook at the school. She had triumphed, healing herself, and finding meaning in her life. She wore her cross necklace again, a sign she had made peace with her past. Paul told Angel that Michael was still alone. He hadn't married the girl next door. Angel could hardly believe it. Michael had waited for her all these years. She decided not to waste his passionate love any longer. At that moment, Michael was working in the field. Perhaps through divine connection, he suddenly turned around. Once again, he saw the woman God had sent him. He had never forgotten that face. Angel followed the pull of Cupid's arrow, and joyfully ran toward Michael. This time, she truly opened her heart. Their patience and waiting had been worth it. God had separated them 3 times, so they could grow individually, becoming the best versions of themselves. Finally, they could truly become one, forming a steadfast and enduring love. The movie ends here. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, so you won't miss out on new movies.